right, hello readers. Good evening. Thanks for tuning in, and I'm really excited about tonight. I mean, this is a big night. This is a big night for me. It's not necessarily a big night for everyone else. It's a big night for me because this is a subject that I'm super excited about. I asked Mandy. Mandy's our programs and outreach coordinator. She keeps us all in line. I was like, Mandy, I want to talk about all the books this month because we're celebrating entrepreneurs this month. So I was like, can I talk about all of the books? And she's like, yeah, you can. I'm not going to stop you. If you, hey, Kaylee. She's like, I'm not going to stop you if you want to talk about books. So that's why I did one on January 30th, and she's letting me do another one really soon after, kind of on a similar subject. But this is a subject that I'm really passionate about. It's one of my sort of reading niche is. A lot of times with the library staff, you should know this, by the way. You should this and utilize this. We all have our little niches. You know, there's the children's, obviously, they know their stuff with that. But then there's also people who read young adult, people who read graphic novels, people who read true crime, people who read romance, and we all kind of like keep each other abreast of what's going on in those different fields. And we are extremely passionate about getting that information to you. So there's probably someone on staff who can what we call reader's advisory for you. So if you're not sure what to read, we know it. We know what you should be reading. Trust me. Either we've read it or we've heard around the grapevine. Everybody wants to tell us what to read too. So we know. And look, I tried so hard on this PowerPoint to make it so that my face was not like up in the PowerPoint, and I clearly failed. Technical difficulties. That's okay. It's okay because I could tell you this is Binge-Worthy Books with Rachel Lynn. I mean, I didn't actually think you'd see that bit, but it's with me, Rachel, because reading is good for business. Reading is good for business. I don't know why, because, library staff. I don't know why, but I am, Highland. I am obsessed with reading books about logistics and getting things together and getting yourself together, which is what, if you want to go back in our Facebook feed, I have I have a goal setting program, and I have a goal setting binge-worthy books for you to watch. They're both, I mean, you get to hang out with me more, so you obviously want to do that. But in this time I printed out a cheat sheet for myself because I learn a little bit more every time about how to do this. Okay, so today we're going to talk about I see myself do what I'm doing like 3 seconds afterwards. It's very distracting. We're going to talk about binge-worthy books. I mean, these are binge-worthy. These are the books that I just ravenously devour, usually in audiobook form. I just like nuts about them. So I asked the whole staff, I was like, staff, give me book recommendations so that I can give them to the peoples. And they were like, we don't read those books, Rachel. It's just you. All of my other ones have been like fall reads. Everybody has a fall read. Or books about love or something like that. And they're like, yeah, we can get behind that. And I'm like, books about business. And they're like, you're on your own. So I did get 2 responses. Thank you, Victoria and Hannah. For and Kaylee did too, but it doesn't really, thank you, Kaylee, but it doesn't really work in this scenario. But I'm going to hold on to I know that half the title was books and cigarettes, for another day. Okay. So if you are, or you know someone who needs it, because there's actually been some studies, one of the many books I'm going to talk about tonight has mentioned some studies, 2 of them actually, that business people who read tend to perform better in the business world because it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like in the book Freakonomics, I don't know if y'all remember this, but there's a statistic that one of the main indicators that you will be in the top 50% of parents as opposed to the lower 50% of parents is you bought a book about parenting. Just the sheer fact that you even thought, hey, I should look at a book about parenting will put you in the top 50%. It's like the one consistent statistic. And the same thing is true here. If you want to be in the top 50% of your business community, you need to keep abreast of what's going on. You need to keep inspiring yourself and making your brain think in new ways. There's a lot of books here that are going to help you do that. If you know someone who needs this book list, please send this along. Also, just have them contact me because I will talk ad nauseum about this subject. Um, okay, so the oh, I did want to. Why is it not going forward? Is it going forward? Did it go to the next slide and I just can't see it? It did. And now I'm doing fade. I'm doing this better now. Okay, whole bunch of changes. So the my face is in the way. Like, why is it? You know what? Whatever. I wonder if I can fix it real quick. Is this going to freak everything out? Watch this. Watch what happens if I do this. What happened? Did I break it? Gosh, I hope not. Oh, I'm just tinier now. Okay. So I did want to mention so one of the things we're talking about this month is entrepreneurs and social media marketing and just getting your name out there and getting your business out there. Because we have the famous Lauren Holberson is going to talk about social media marketing tools for small businesses and nonprofits. She's been a consultant. She's worked at 2 different business incubators for cities. So this is really in her wheelhouse. She knows what she's talking about. She's really just going to talk about tools that you can access in order to increase your social media game. Really easy level of entry, the ones that she's chosen, really high reward. So definitely you can go to Eventbrite and you can access that through our Facebook and sign up for this. So you get a little ding reminder when it's time, when it comes up. But February 24th at 7 p.m. you will definitely not regret it. Also, if you know someone who has a small business, an Etsy business, an Amazon business, I don't know what you got. Hi. But anything like that, this is going to be really great for you. Okay. Moving on. I also love Lauren. I kind of like, if there were a Lauren fan club, I would be like the secretary, I think. I would just like document. Okay. All right. So Victoria suggested we've got to start meeting like this. And what's interesting, she heard about it, this book in a webinar, and it's actually mentioned in one of the books. I think it's mentioned in Julie Zhao's book. And it really is, it's very specific. It's just about meetings. Oh, have you read it? Is this Mandy? It is Mandy. Have you read it? You tell us what it's about then, Mandy. You go ahead and tell. I'll let you fill in the comments then in the comments section. We've got to start meeting. We've got to start meeting like this. I got it. I got the whole title. And so there's like a lot of practicality to that, and I think that this is something I was talking to a friend about in her sort of business environment, and that they kind of get stuck in some meetings. I was, and I also struggle with this, not knowing, especially in the virtual world, not knowing how to move meetings forward in an effective way so that we're actually accomplishing the goals. It kind of tends to cycle around like sort of toilet bowl situation. You're just watching it swirl and you're like, what do I do now? Maybe that's a terrible analogy. I don't know if y'all have meetings like that, but sometimes I lead meetings like that, and I'm like, clearly this is me. Anyway, this is a book for that. The next one is Hannah. So Hannah had 2 picks. Hannah is really interested in thinking in systems. So this is the Meadows book is about how to think in systems and also how to rethink system thinking. So the sort of logistics. There's actually a lot of literature on this subject, and she's read quite a few of them. So I would recommend talking to Hannah if you're interested in thinking in systems in general. But this is kind of like the primer, the textbook for the, it doesn't read like a textbook, but the primer for thinking in systems. And then there's several offshoots of that. And the other one she recommended is Lead from the Outside. And it's more Stacey Abrams' book, and there's a lot in it. There's some politics, but it's actually more about networking, social connections, making yourself kind of known, carving out your space in a very entrepreneurial business way. Oh, you're telling me that the screen. Thanks, Mindy. I thought you'd read the book. Okay. Let me see. So yes, so these are Hannah's picks. And I think that these are both really interesting because one is very much about the big picture, the sort of like the meta of, systems thinking. And then the Stacey Abrams book is very hands-on, like examples, minute by minute. And I mean, You know Stacey Abrams' name, right? You do, and you do, and you do. So she knows what she's doing in the realm of getting your name out there, and building your business, right? So let's go to the next slide, which is, oh, so since I get to talk about all the books that I read, and I'm so excited about it, because this is really what I want to do all day, is just tell you what to read. I thought I'd start with what am I reading right now, and I just started Good to Great, and this is probably a pretty famous one. I don't know if anybody's read this one, Good to Great, or has heard of Good to Great. It's a good title. So basically, Jim Collins wrote Built to Last, which is about businesses that are, a thriving business, how to build a thriving business, and he was interested in taking that kind of in a different direction and looking at businesses that go from being meh to being fantastic in a very short amount of time, and then sustain that growth. So, because there's a lot of businesses that just kind of stall out, right? I'm sure there's business people out there that know what I mean. It's just like in your personal life, just feeling like you've stalled out. So the advice for in Good to Great is sort of statistically driven, it's data driven, to just look at those businesses and see how they're getting from meh to incredible in a very short amount of time. So what are the strategies that you would use to do that? I think that's actually pretty useful information for a lot of other things. It doesn't necessarily have to be business, like communities going from good to great. I mean, that's absolutely possible. That's something that I'm really interested in as a community builder, which is what libraries are. That's our function. We build communities. How can we take any community that we're in from meh to great in a very short amount of time? What are the tactics for that? So that's why I'm really interested in reading this book. So just started it though, just at the very tip of it. I'll let y'all know how it goes, whether you want to know or not. I will be telling you. So I wanted to mention also that a lot of the books that I'm going to talk about are on Cloud Library, because I read from Cloud Library. What is Cloud Library, you ask? It is our digital app. So you just go to your app store, your Apple, your Google, whatever. You download it like a regular app, because it's actually an outside service that we pay for. But then you go in, you put your PIN number. If you don't know it, we can tell you what it is. And then you get access to a huge selection of ebooks and e-audiobooks. And unlike the regular library, you don't have to set a timer on your phone in 2 weeks to remind you to take them back. They just disappear. And you did it. It's amazing. I love it. So highly recommend downloading the Cloud Library app if you haven't already. So these are some other books that I'm actually not going to talk about that are on the Cloud Library app. We just got Quantum Marketing. That's on my reading list. Uncontainable is about the Container Store, and Lauren's going to talk about that next week. I'm interested in Grow Your Handmade Business. Doesn't that sound nice? And Smart Cuts is kind of like that as well. Oh, and The Hustle Economy. These are all available to you. All right, for free. Read the free books, please. All right, don't talk to me about Audible. I mean, Audible's great, but you can also have the free books. There's no rule saying you can't have both. And I wanted to talk first about some books that I think have a lot of general appeal. These are true crime. I mean, there's crime in them for sure. But just sort of like true to life examples, which I found really fascinating. This is one of my favorites of the past 2 years. It's called Bad Blood, Secrets and Lies in Silicon Valley, of a Silicon Valley startup. So John Carreyrou is writing about Theranos, which you can see the founder of Theranos is in this top picture here. It's right above my head, I think. And she proposed that she could make a diagnostic machine that would say there's a tiny little vial of blood that would take that tiny little vial of blood and test you for some like 250 blood tests. Yeah, it's impossible. It's impossible to do that. But she somehow got 3 former secretaries of state and all of these huge companies and billions of dollars of investment to make it happen. This person right here did that. Total sham. I'm not ruining anything. Trust me. It's so compelling. I mean, I was just riveted. It's so compelling that they made a documentary for HBO, and now they're going to make a Jennifer Lawrence movie. It should have already been in the can by now, but they obviously pandemic and all that. So you can kind of see the correlation here between the two. But Jennifer Lawrence is going to play this 22-year-old, Ivy League dropout who thought she could change the world, and then realized that somebody's got to do the sciencey bit, and that's impossible. Anyway, yet maybe it will come. And that's really what's interesting about this book, is that the dream she is selling is so valuable. It was going to save so many lives. And it really, if you can do that, you will save so many lives, which she proposed to do. But she couldn't do it. But people were so driven by that dream and her sort of belief in it, she could sell it to you. And that is a fantastic business person, lesson for a business person. If you can sell the dream, and the dream is worth selling, i.e. save millions and millions of lives. And, she had the military, she had a military contract, she had a contract with CVS, she had a contract with Walgreens. Everybody was excited about this product that didn't exist. That is an incredible skill to be able to do that. So Bad Blood, totally worth. It's actually on Cloud Library on audio. And it was great. Another one that I really enjoyed is Bitcoin Billionaires. So Ben Mesrich is the person who wrote The Accidental Billionaires, which is the book that The Social Network, that movie, is based off of, is The Accidental Billionaires. So this is about the twins that are in that book. They continued into the Bitcoin industry, right? It's not really the financial realm. I lost their name. Does anybody remember their name? Starts with a W, maybe? It's a strange word. Anyway, just about them, and they basically started a social network that revolutionized everything that we think about. I mean, they really, really did. It was really their idea in Ben Mesrich's version of it. It was a lot of it was coming from them, and they had that idea. They just needed help in execution, and then they created the way that we trade and deal with these bit currencies. They really invented the way that we deal with them from the ground up, and turned themselves into billionaires. Also Olympic athletes, very compelling young men. They're not that young anymore, but these are the other two books by Ben Mesrich. Bringing Down the House, which is about Las Vegas, some savants who sort of take the house for all it's worth, and just it says there, took Vegas for millions. And then The Accidental Billionaires, which is what The Social Network is based on. So I would take Ben Mesrich with a grain of salt, because he definitely protagonizes the central figures in his nonfiction, so they feel larger than life in a way that you're like, really? So take it with that grain of salt, but it actually makes it kind of a compelling read. So, and the next one is, there are two more in that kind of genre. It's The Big Short, which I really enjoyed. If you've seen the movie, it's also a pretty fun movie. But Michael Lewis, who also wrote The Undoing Project, is probably his more recent work. He wrote The Big Short about the 2008 financial crash. Basically, who made money off of this crash and why was the impulse for writing the researching the book. And he's actually a pretty good writer, especially when it comes to finances. Finances can be challenging for people to understand. And you can actually compare it to Dark Towers, which is a similar book, in that it's dealing with the hubris of these really large financial institutions. And in this case, it's Deutsche Bank. It's called Deutsche Bank, Donald Trump, and the Epic and an Epic Trail of Destruction. But honestly, Donald Trump is like this much of the book. Like, he's one of their clients, but it's really about Deutsche Bank. And I think it's just like Donald Trump's name's on the cover to sell books. But hi! It's just to sell the book a little bit, but he's more like a cautionary tale, like an example of if you do business, if Deutsche Bank, if you keep doing business this way, it's not going to work out for you, and it doesn't. Which I love to see a good like implosion. I don't know why, but I do enjoy that. But there's actually a lot in Dark Towers about poor business practices, like if you are skimp on the ethics, if you are constantly pushing your people to be 25% over quarter, then they're only going to make short-term gains. They're not going to have any long-term agendas. Sorry, you're not going to have any long-term strategy if you're only thinking quarter to quarter. And even if you're something as large as Deutsche Bank and you're an international financial institution like Deutsche Bank, if you don't have a vision that's longer than the next 90 days in your sales team, you're going to fail. You're going to crash and burn. All there is to it. Oh, okay. So those are kind of the true life books that I would recommend. These are the Think Differently books that I would recommend. Simply Brilliant is really great. It just goes through a lot of different strategies for product design, but product design can be really like keep it agile. It's really pretty simple. It's not very long, so I would recommend it. They talk a little bit about concepts like blue ocean. Does anybody know what I mean when I say I used to be a teacher. What I mean when I say blue ocean? Find your blue ocean. Does that sound familiar to anyone? I'll let you think about it. Tell me if you know the answer. This book by Verrill, who is an aerospace engineer and worked for NASA, is Think Like a Rocket Scientist. And the idea is to use techniques that rocket scientists use to build rockets to help you in life and in business and as an inventor, just in general, to apply those tactics to your life in some way. So, keeping track of having fail safes. So if this goes wrong, there will be this. If this goes wrong, there will be this. And going through those scenarios, very important in rocket science. Also very important in life. And just, problem solving. If you think you know the answer to a question, always ask yourself, you try to prove yourself wrong, basically, in order to prove yourself right. So really take that practice seriously. 0 to 1 is by the guy who started PayPal. And the people who started PayPal started Amazon, I think, and started Tesla. Right. So that sort of core, the people who started PayPal basically reinvented your universe. So it's kind of interesting to look into the mind of that person. There were a couple times where I was like, okay, he's kind of one of those guys who speaks in platitudes a little bit and is very set in how he thinks. But since he invented the modern way that we like live in the universe, then I guess he can be a little stuck in his ways, maybe like a little high opinion of himself. Okay, you can do that. Of these, I actually like Simply Brilliant the best, just for everyday problem solving. But they're all really good. Blue ocean. There's a whole book about it. Here's the concept of finding your blue ocean. You want to start a business. You're looking around. You're in your boat. You're looking around the water. And you see a bunch of red ocean. What does that mean? It means that there's a lot of chum in the water. There's a lot of sharks over there. All right, it's already been tackled. It's already claimed territory. Blood in the water. Don't go in. Like, if you want to compete with Amazon, just don't. Just don't. It's not a good plan. What you want to find is a nice blue ocean, a service or a product that is not being provided. And then Thiel, who wrote 0 to 1, would say you want to take a service and make it 10 times better. So if you just make it incrementally better, you're going to be, you could fall victim to like the solar panel industry. I mean, there's money coming out everywhere in, 2008 for solar energy. Do we all have solar everything? No, because the technology was only better. You don't want to be, if you're trying to start a revolution, you're trying to start a business, it needs to be better than your competitors, right? If you're trying to start a bakery, your baked goods need to be better than Ingles baked goods, you know? So that's something to consider. So that's why these books are really good. Okay. Next. Gosh, I'm so happy I get to do this. Okay. It's a great job. What am I on? Where am I? Where am I in the, oh yeah. So these books are specific to leaders. If you're, the multipliers changed my life. Liz Wiseman changed my life. Woman knows how to make some money too. So, don't get on the mailing list because you'll get a lot of mail. But this sort of research project has helped me out as a library manager so much. Just the research in it is fantastic. It's the examples are really fantastic. And then she has this concept of accidental diminishers. So she has diminishers and multipliers, right? You want to be a multiplier, not a diminisher. You already guessed that. Accidental diminishers are really interesting to me. You've all met them. You know them. They're leaders who do things that seem helpful, but that are actually really harmful to the team. Like if you have a boss that's like right here all the time. Like, hey, what you doing? You doing good? You okay? You need me to take care of anything for you? How's it going? No, I don't know if you're ready for that. You know that boss? Yeah. Accidental diminishers. Got to be careful not to become that person. Really easy to do. Anyway. Then this is Julie Zhao's book. Julie Zhao was one of the earliest people in Facebook and sort of rose through the ranks. And she is like the vice president of project development. I don't know. None of these titles really mean anything. I don't know what they do over there. She project develops with peoples and stuff. But she has a lot of people underneath her and she does a lot of hiring. So for this really, impressive infrastructure that is Facebook. And she takes some of Liz Wiseman's ideas, but she also is just really practical about it. It's pretty readable. Basically reads like a blog. So that's really nice. So does, let me see, Simply Brilliant does that too. And I've got another one that definitely reads that way somewhere down the list. Okay. Let's see. Next. Oh, you guys can probably already see that it's Great at Work and Deep Work. So these are very important for everyone to read. Actually, the next two sets of books, everyone needs to read at least one of these books. I don't care who you are, because you live in a house with a smartphone. I know you do. You live in a house with a smartphone, you need to read Deep Work and probably Great at Work as well. These two are the best about explaining to you how important it is to set aside time for being deeply involved in work. And when Great at Work is good at saying when you need to get back out of your own head. But Cal Newport has written extensively on these sort of pops topics and also computer science, really prolific in creating an academic profile. He's a professor, actually. He does this writing for fun. But it is really helpful to show you the value and the detriment of not dealing with your smartphone problem. You have one, trust me. We all do. And your compulsive email checking problem. And your compulsive aversion to doing deep work. Doing hard thoughts. We don't want to do it. And Cal Newport really goes into that. And how important it is to your mental health, to your labor output, to getting large projects done. You have to think deeply. You do. And it's just really hard in a distracted world. So these are really great reads for that. Kind of on that same subject, I have 3 books about habit. Atomic Habit is really short. It's only about 100 pages. So, and it's very practical. It's like, do this, not this. So, and you can also, he's been on YouTube and podcasts and that sort of thing. James Clear. He's been on all these sorts of, I know what the word is, social media outlets. And he basically tells you what's in the book. So you could do that too. Don't tell anyone I said that. You don't have to read the book in this case. You don't have to read the book in this case. But things like, very practical, if you want to eat more fruit, put a bowl on your kitchen table and fill it with bananas. And you will probably eat them, right? Very practical sort of stuff like that. But he uses that as an example to move out into the rest of your life and to show you ways of tackling projects that you are currently avoiding. The Power of Habit is more of an academic read. It's like why we need habits, how habits are built. It's a little bit of a step out of the nitty gritty every day. So that's really interesting because knowledge is power. So once you're like, I have used the finite amount of willpower that psychologists say that I have for the day, I'll start over tomorrow. You can do that because you have the knowledge that, by the way, willpower is finite. It is a finite resource that you have to develop. Gretchen Rubin is a blogger, and she wrote Better Than Before. And this is actually the first of this genre that I read. This sort of help thyself get better, whatever it is that I like to read. And it was very effective, not very science driven, but very motivational. So give it a try. I also just like Gretchen Rubin. She seems great. You know, you just want to hang out sometimes with the authors and you're like, Gretchen, you're great. And you can check out, she's a really popular blogger. So you could read her blog as well. The next one is the famous 4-Hour Workweek. Who's heard of this book, The 4-Hour Workweek? Has anyone heard of this Timothy Ferriss guy? And he's still around doing his thing. He's written a couple other books, Titans or something like that, which is a bunch of interviews with famous people who get things done. But in this book, he's like, I was working hard. I had a business that I started, and I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm going to move to Europe and travel around and run my business from my computer. Hey, guess who started that movement? That thing that you see on Pinterest all the time, and you're like, how are these people travel blogging? What is travel blogging? Tim Ferriss is the person who invented that, basically. I mean, kind of Ernest Hemingway, but that's not the point. He's really the one that brings it like, you can do it too. This guy. My favorite thing about this, but there's a lot of like fun sort of you can do it too's happening here. The best advice I got out of this book, though, was he will challenge people to contact the person you don't think will call you back. You know, that person you're like, oh, they're too amazing. They would never answer my email. And he's like, that person never gets emailed. So you go ahead and email them, and I bet you they'll email you back. Much more than any of these sort of like middle minions. If you email the top person, they'll actually email you back. True, because I have truly done that. I've been like, that person seems unattainable. Like, I've emailed all the minions. Why don't I email the CEO? Works. So if you have any sort of project like that, or something that you want to know, or I say, for my example, an MIT professor that you really admire, and you just want to like let him know, they'll answer you. Okay, so it's actually a fun little read, and you can kind of skip around in it too. So that's good. I actually mentioned these two last month, but just as far as persona, getting your what Todd Herman calls your alter ego set. These are really great books for that. Everything is Figure Outable. Marie Forleo, she's very inspiring. She's also a social media star, so she has a whole chapter about how to sort of gird your loins against the internet, which is actually really useful advice for everyone, because we keep on finding ourselves out there on the internet where the hateful people are, and she really gives a lot of tactics for coping with the haters, as it were. And Todd Herman is a trainer who specializes in sports. So he works with athletes, pro-level athletes like professional golfers, tennis players, basketball players who are in high-pressure situations, and teaches them how to create an alter ego who goes into these high-pressure situations. So Rachel here. Rachel would be a little nervous if I had to give a speech conference in front of 300 people. That sounds pretty nervous. So I can create Super Rachel. And Super Rachel, say, has some sort of tactics to sort of signal that I have entered into Super Rachel. I'm going to flip my hair to the other side. Super Rachel. And that sort of ritual, if you ritualize it, you keep doing it, it becomes a part of the process of transforming into your alter ego, whoever that is. And it sounds really hokey, and he recognizes that. He's like, I hear how hokey this sounds. Your brain will believe it. You can trick yourself into having an alter ego, and it's very handy to have. Okay. Mine is not called Super Rachel. Okay, the next one is, these are also two that I mentioned before, but just like when you're done with all of the logistics, you've gone through, inventing your next amazing device, and you've created amazing habits, and you're ready to lead, and you're ready to do some deep work. Here are some inspiring reads to just like get your soul right. You're like, my spirit is in the right place because I read Big Magic and For Everyone. Jason Reynolds and Elizabeth Gilbert. So they're both famous authors in their own right as fiction authors. And then Jason Reynolds' book is a book of poetry, and Elizabeth Gilbert's book is a nonfiction book about creative living. Both fantastic. Okay, so that's actually it. That's what I got. That's what I got for everyone. I feel like that's a lot. I'm tired. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts or like favorite books? Oh, I just wanted to remind everyone all the things that we have going on. We have lots of things. Even though, we have this, we have packets, we have book clubs, we have, yoga. Join us for yoga. I'd like to see as many people as possible just being with Angie and getting relaxed and getting fit at the same time. That's a good place to start. If you want to get yourself, into a better space, ready to tackle these huge problems, ready to tackle the next chapter in your life, do some yoga with Angie. You'll thank yourself. Anyway, this is everything that I have. If y'all are good, y'all are thinking you don't have any comments for me, I'm going to tell you to just keep reading, keep visiting the library. We're still there. We're getting you books. We're enjoying it. We're enjoying paging books for people and make sure that everybody has exactly what they need, and they leave with. Little kids love it. They come in and they're like, I'm going to need this tall lady, because we're all taller than them, this tall lady to get me dinosaurs, birthdays, birthday dinosaurs, and the 100th day of school. Go. And they just start, they're like, and I'm like, yes, ma'am. And then I just go do it. And they enjoy telling us what to do. It's a little bit of a power trip. Anyway, so just come by and see us. Say hi. And we miss you if we haven't seen you in a while. We have noticed. So please come back and see us and keep reading. Bye. I'm going to keep waving until I click the end button.